Paranormal King Radio Network, bringing you the best paranormal hosts and guests. Bringing you the best paranormal shows and features. Playing the top musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. With the best paranormal hosts and guests. The best in paranormal shows and features. Playing the best musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. The paranormal will never be the same.
There are things in this world of the paranormal that we do not understand. Entities, such as ghosts and mysterious creatures, have always haunted our collective consciousness. Amongst all the mystery that exists in our midst, there are occurrences that have earned increased attention. What we present to you now is Haunted Salem's Beyond the Grave, where the dead educate the living. Welcome to Beyond the Grave Radio with Haunted Salem, where the dead educate the living, here on the Paranormal King Radio Network. We have a great show for you tonight. We have our special guest, Larry Thomas, who is also a great friend of mine, and we'll be discussing on the first half of the show the McRaven home in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And in the second half, we'll be talking about New Orleans and the French Quarters. So very glad to have all you listeners, as well as all you in chat, so thank you for tuning in. Hello, Larry. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Very excited and glad to have you on the show.
I'm delighted to be here.
That is awesome. How's the weather out there?
Oh, it's fine. It's a little warm today. Of course, any weather here would be warm to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, especially this time of year.
Exactly.
Well, now, Vicksburg's haunted house is called the McRaven home. Constructed in the year 1797 by a man by the name of Andrew Glass. This home was known during the period in which the Civil War as the infamous Bob House. During this time, the town of Vicksburg was called Walnut Hills, and the street in which the home resided on was known as McRaven. So eventually the structure would come to be known as the McRaven home. It still retains this particular name despite the fact that street has a different name. Now it is known as the Harrison Street. So many individuals who have visited and or resided in the structure believed it to be haunted. Many will go as far as to say that Vicksburg haunted house, the McRaven home, is the single most haunted house in all of Mississippi. So Larry, what do you think about that?
Well, it is known as the most haunted house in Mississippi. And it is definitely haunted.
Really? Have you ever been there before?
Oh, I was conceived about half a block from McRaven.
That's
I grew
awesome.
up climbing the trees in the yard.
That's so cool. Now, I know you didn't grow up in, well, the area itself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and about Mississippi?
Okay, I grew up in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Bordered by the Mississippi River, watching the steamboats come up and down the river, and you can't turn around without running into a ghost here.
Wow.
Of
Mississippi,
course,
not
the
haunted,
Civil
huh?
War was there. Oh, it's very haunted. There are many haunted houses here.
Question, actually, I just thought of. Do you think a lot of it is the slaves back then?
Is it just what back then?
The all like the ghosts and stuff. Like, I think a lot of them are from the slave period.
Oh, yes. There was the Trail of Tears when the Indians came through.
Hmm.
Many of them were starving and dying, and McRaven was one of the stops on the Trail of Tears.
So it was one of the stops of the Underground Railroad.
No, when they grounded the Indians up for the Trail of Tears, they herded them like cattle onto the reservation. They didn't feed them, and they stopped for water and let them sleep at McRaven. Many of them died there or buried in the yard.
Wow. All right. Well, with a little history about the McRaven home, it all started with, the home being constructed, by Andrew Glass, and the home was popular among pioneers who required a place to lodge during their travels. Originally, the home was actually on the small side. There was a kitchen, and just above this room was another room that one could stay in. Many changes have taken place in this home since then. Now, the small area that retains original construction is notably referred to as, which is the Pioneer section. A man by the name of Stephen Howard, who served as a sheriff at the time, decided to purchase the estate in 1836. And by 1949, it rolled around. There was an interested buyer for the home, and that was John H. Bobb. He took an interest in developing the home. So he particularly enjoyed homes that were constructed in the style that were considered Greek rival. This was during the time of the siege of Vicksburg.
Right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of the siege of Vicksburg?
All right. What is not known is really that many of the people in Vicksburg were Northern sympathizers. They were businessmen who did their business with the boats that went up and down the river. However, some of the outlying communities didn't feel the same way, and they actually helped the North surround Vicksburg on three sides. The siege lasted for 30 days. People ended up eating horses, dogs, cats, and rats during the siege. They lived in caves, and they slept on shells dug into the caves.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be hit by the shells from the gunboats.
Huh. Interesting. Let's see.
And this is still accessible. A few years ago, some little boys were going in them and they actually found a cannon in one of them.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Now, a lot of this does this go back to and forgive me because I'm not too familiar with Mississippi itself, but even what was I saying? Gettysburg, the soldiers and stuff. Does this go back to a period of that as well?
Of course. The battle was fought here for 30 days, and many, many people died. There are rows and rows and rows of Indian graves, but the Southern people were just buried where they died, pretty much.
Huh.
So, right around the caves, you will see the headstones of some of the southern people. Of course, some of them were never found.
Okay. So there's a lot going on. You have, the soldiers, you have the slaves, and
You
all
have the
in this
Indians,
Hmm.
and then you have all the people who died here. McRaven House was also used as a hospital during the Civil War,
Oh,
and
wow.
the soldiers who died were buried in the yard.
Okay, so there's a lot buried there.
Yeah, there's a lot of graves that are unmarked there.
Now, what kind of hauntings do you think happen in the house, out of curiosity? Do you think it's poltergeist activity? Do you think it's residual activity? Or do you think they
I
just
know
roam?
there's residual. I think there's some intelligent hauntings. The owner, Mr. French, actually was pushed by one of the ghosts. He was
wow.
forced
That's
to flee the
intelligent.
home. He was forced to flee the home, and he feared for his own sanity, and he wouldn't spend the night there thereafter.
Because he got pushed? That could be a little
Well,
scary.
he was afraid he was going crazy.
Oh, okay.
And if you saw him, you might wonder yourself. He's a very odd man.
Okay. Well, I know this home is very beautiful. They now they say the home was supposed to serve as a point of refuge for wounded and active soldiers of the Confederacy, like you said. It fell victim to the bullets and cannons that played a role in the Civil War. The home received a large amount of damage and became terribly battered. It is believed that several individuals died in and around the property of the McRaven home. A year later, the area was under control of the Union. John H. Bob came home one day to find a horde of soldiers from the Union taking food from the crops in his garden. Naturally, he was quite angry. There was a confrontation that resulted in Bob hindering a sergeant due to a brick blow to the head. Later that day, a large group of Union soldiers captured Bob, took him about 300 feet from the home, and shot him several times. John's wife, Selena, was left behind and eventually sold the home and moved to Louisiana. So one of my questions is who do you believe died in the house?
There have been hundreds of people who died in the house. Since it was
Anyone that
used
owned
as a
it?
Civil War hospital.
Yeah.
Anyone what?
That owned it. Anyone in there that besides John?
Everyone who owned it died in it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone who owned it. And the story goes they weren't taking crops from the man's garden. They were taking flowers from his other garden.
Oh, okay.
And he hit one of the officers in the head with a brick.
And because
And
of
as
that,
retribution, he was shot.
Okay. That's wild. How long did they live there for? Do you know?
I don't know. The house changed hands several times.
So these people themselves must have been victim to a lot of ghosts that lived. John, Selena, and they must have been victim to a lot of ghosts.
Oh, yes, this one little girl goes upstairs who will jump up and down the bed. You can walk by and suddenly you'll see the print in the bed where she jumps.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
So
you get to see the print.
Yeah, you can see the print. It's a feather bed.
Now, what about any mirrors? Any ghosts that are seen in the mirrors?
Seen in the what?
The mirrors in the place. See, I'm afraid of mirrors because I believe mirrors hold, they're a part of certain, ghostly factors. And I'm always afraid of mirrors because I'm always afraid what I'm going to see in them. It's like a portal. They say mirrors are portals.
Well, this house is built on the intersection of two lead lines. And it is also crossed overhead heavily by electric lines. And I think that's the reason, perhaps, the hauntings go on there?
Because of well, a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy.
Right. There's a lot of energy there.
Okay. Do you know any more ghost stories?
Besides Leyland French being pushed down the stairs, there's sightings of Indians in the front yard, of ladies in antebellum dresses, of soldiers. People aren't allowed inside the house very much.
Oh, really?
Only if you pay to go on a tour. And the house is closed right now. I've been in it a few times, but but anyway.
All right, well, the haunted house was eventually purchased by a family named Murray. This was in the year 1882. The McRaven home remained in the possession of the home until the members had passed away, except for one, who was relocated to a nursing home for care. The family included the parent, who were William and Ellen. The children included a son and several daughters. While the son's name remains a mystery, the daughters' name were Ida, Annie, and Ella. So by the time this family left, the home was in dire need of restoration. In the year 1960, a family by the name of Bradway purchased the home. They started the first restorations and converted it into a home where individuals could tour, learning about the history. Eventually, an individual named Leland French purchased the structure, and that was about 1984. And he was the first to actually live in the home since the year 1960, when the last Murray child moved to the nursing home for additional care. So it seems like, Larry, a lot of families had hands and got a hold of this property since being constructed in the 1700s.
Well, since it was 1700, it really wasn't a lot of families. I mean, if you consider the number of years, what, 5, 6 families perhaps in 300 years?
Yeah, okay. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. All right. And like you said, they do tours there. It's closed now.
Right.
And like you've said, you've been to the property. You've been inside on the property. You grew up around the area.
I actually met the sisters who lived there. There were 2 sisters who were reclusive. And they never left the property. Their brother had been a gambler, and he gambled away all their inheritance. And when he died, they took down the dining room door and laid him on the door, called the coroner. I was kind of admiring them for that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I actually got to meet them once. I'm one of the few people who actually got inside the house. In those days, little boys did what they were told. And there was a little store in the corner, and they asked me to take something up to the house. And I did, and they actually let me in the hallway back then. And it was littered with newspapers. And they hid tuna fish cans in the newspapers because they were scared that someone would steal their food. And that's all they ate was tuna fish.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they were extremely reclusive. They wore the clothes that were left in the attic, so if someone saw them outside, they would think they saw a ghost anyway. But I got inside, and I saw, it was just totally newspapers. But they broke up the furniture and burned it for firewood.
Okay.
And the newspapers they burned also in the winter because they had no water, electricity, heat, or bathrooms. They had an outhouse and a well.
Okay. I always wanted to live back then. I always said I'm in the wrong generation. I always wanted to live back in those days for some reason. I'm very fascinated.
You would look good in a hoop skirt.
I don't know. Something about it. I just always wished.
I would have liked to have been there too.
You know, and I'm sure we were. You know, I'm sure you believe in reincarnation.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we were too. Although I'm
Maybe
afraid I
that's
was going up and down into the river doing shows, but whatever.
All right. Well, now the hauntings of the McRaven home, the legends of spirits lingering in the home, start with the various individuals that died in and around the structure. Based on the history, we know that Mary Elizabeth Howard, who lived in the structure in the early days, gave birth and died with complications during this time. We know that she passed in the bedroom right above the middle dining area. There seems to be quite a bit of unexplained phenomenon that occurs in this room. It seems that Mary Elizabeth turns the light in the room on and off as if to draw attention. Her wedding shawl remained with the home for quite some time, and those that actually picked up say that it was very hot and seems that if it is pulled from their hands. Several people have reported seeing apparitions of a teenage girl in the bedroom, on the lavish staircase, as well as other areas in the home. It is not known whether the spirit is residual or intelligent, but several accounts to the fact that the spirit seems to acknowledge and attempt to interact with others. So you would have to conclude that it's an intelligent haunting. So going on with more haunted tales about this home, what else do you have to tell us about it?
Oh, what can
More
I
haunting tales?
say? More haunted tales?
Yeah, do you know any more haunted tales?
Oh, well, we're gonna save that for New Orleans.
Okay.
But I mean, the tour guides all leave before dark. No one will come in the house after dark.
Really?
Now there has been some investigations done, but I saw some videos of them, and the investigators were very disrespectful,
Oh, really?
and I was very upset about it.
Yeah. What were they
Because
tormenting?
they were just cussing and yelling and screaming, and I wouldn't want that in my home, and I'm sure the spirits wouldn't want that in theirs.
Yeah, unprofessional. Absolutely.
It is, and also being a lot of the ladies there from the old South, they weren't used to that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a different.
So that was,
way.
yeah, ladies were put on a pedestal then.
Okay. Huh. It's very interesting. I always wanted to wear that old clothing too. I think I'd look good.
The hoop skirt, it would look wonderful on you. Trust me.
Thank you, Larry. Okay. Well, now for those that don't know what intelligent haunting is, it's when a ghost interacts with the present. It is intelligent that the ghost may communicate or interfere in some fashion with those of us living on the earthly plane. The disembodied person has elected for some reason to stay here due to a connection with a person, place, or thing. An intelligent haunting sometimes happens due to a spirit compelling need to deliver a message from the other side of the grave or to watch over loved ones. Well, in addition, it is also plausible that an intelligent haunting can occur during attachments the ghostly person feels to memories, trauma, tragedy, or any other emotional tie. Effectively binding the mind to not realizing the deceased person's body has indeed expired, completing unfinished earthly business, reliving traumatic events, as the mind consistently replays the event in an attempt to comprehend, perhaps remaining with the loved ones or the person the ghost finds that company will not let go during some form of fear after death, such as fear of punishment or moving on to the unknown. Intelligent haunting manifests typically in what some may consider to be ghost signs, hiding or moving objects, doors opening and closing, strange sounds, noticing a spiritual presence, and the disturbance of electronic devices are all examples of ghosts attempting to gain someone's attention and to communicate from the spirit realm. One may also experience dreams and visions, attention and communicate from the spirit realm. Um, oh, dreams and visions of loved ones, especially right before or after they sleep, when most of us are more open to contact. Um, It is also uncommon to physically see a ghostly loved one as well as either an apparition or shadow form. The best thing one can do is remain open to the contact and listen to what is heard deep within, as this is how ghosts primarily communicate. So if you encounter a haunting, seek to speak to a spirit using the words of peace, compassion, and love. Uh, that's what I always do when I go into an investigation. Is everything is love and light. Nothing is on the bad side. But have you ever experienced an intelligent haunting in your life?
Well, being a medium, of course, I speak with spirits all the time, so I assume that would be an intelligent haunting.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, so you're as well. You mentioned that you are an empath as well.
As well, yes.
hmm So you've experienced probably a lot of them. The intelligent. Have you experienced poltergeist in your life?
No, I haven't run across one of those.
Yeah, I haven't either. I don't know if I want to. Do you?
I don't either. One of my guides is a light being, never of human flesh, and it protects me from things. It won't let me be around that kind of thing.
Okay. Oh, well, that's a good thing because poltergeists
Uh,
are more negative, so it's protecting you.
But sometimes it would be interesting if I could see the darker side.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
it's one.
frightening, but interesting.
Oh yeah, it'd definitely be frightening. Because poltergeist is where things start moving in the house, like all over the place, and
Right.
it's definitely intelligent, and there's a lot that can go on, and that's where possession comes from too, as well. Um, so yeah, between residual and intelligent poltergeist is three separate things, um, but they can be very scary, very scary. Um,
Oh, indeed.
When's the last time that you've just thinking off the top of my head? When's the last time that you've been caught up in a haunting? Have you visit a lot of places? Do you go around, travel?
I Not a lot. Lately, I've been more a rescue medium than anything else.
Okay,
Spirits come to me, and I help cross them over.
that's awesome. See, I wish I could do that. That's fantastic because
And
that's what they
and I
need.
don't have to go to them; they come to me.
They come to you because they know that you'll
They
do
tend
that
to
for
seek
them.
out they seek out the person who can hear them or see them or whatever, and
Exactly,
you know.
exactly. That's very interesting. But that's very nice that you do that. That's very nice. Um, Now, going back to the McRaven home, seeing that the home served as a hospital, like you said, during the Civil War, and several fights took place on the property, several spirits that are believed to be fallen soldiers that either died under medical supervision or actual battle are said to linger the grounds. In addition to this, the owner of the haunted house at the time, John H. Bob, is believed to linger among the grounds at the home. He was one that was brutally shot just 300 feet away from the structure, and it sometimes seems as if spirits want to make his spirit known as if he is being territorial over the area. So, why do you think the spirits remain at this location?
I think I have a theory anyway that sometimes when extreme events happen in our lives, it imprints our energies on the walls, on trees, on any object.
Absolutely.
And that is one reason. And also, so many people died suddenly in this particular house.
Now, isn't it when you die
The
suddenly,
Indians,
they're dead?
sometimes they don't know they're dead.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't. But,
So, go ahead.
I mean, so many horrific events happen there. Plus, you have to take the ley lines into account.
Oh, sure.
The energy there holds the energies, the other energies. It binds them there.
Okay. So it's just a breeding ground right there for haunted activity and ghosts.
Indeed.
Now, do you think they are stuck there or are able to roam around free off the location?
I think a lot of them are just like images caught on a loop of film, and they
I
just
think I've
suddenly
actually
appear
seen
and
this thing
disappear.
posted
They're
online
not
before.
intelligent. They're not really ghosts. They're just the
Anyway, it's
images
there.
of what
My
happened.
plug. So.
Oh, well, I'm going to have
Okay.
to check that out because that sounds right up my.
All right. Well, now a few of the spirits identified in the home have been Andrew Glass, Mary Elizabeth Howard, a young slave boy, Mr. Bob, Mr. Murray, Ella and Annie Murray, and a few other soldiers from the time of 1863 siege. The encounter Leyline French were so bad that they led him to contact a local Episcopal priest and had the house blessed. One encounter was when he saw Mr. Murray following him up the staircase. French turned and looked, noticed Murray from the pictures, and ran into the bedroom. Soon after, French was walking across the parlor when an unseen force pushed him face first to the floor, breaking his glasses. French had to have stitches around one eye. Some time went by with no physical alterations until a drawer was slammed shut on French's thumb, breaking one of them. After that, he bought a small home down the street and lived in it. The blessing did help get rid of some of the negative activity in the McRaven home. Some of the encounters were unnerving for a few tour guides. One tour guide fell asleep on the sofa in the entryway, and when he woke up, Mr. Bob was standing over him staring. Well, the tour guide walked out and quit on the spot. Doors would slam.
His name was Stacy Douglas.
That was her name?
That was his name, Stacy Douglas.
Okay. Well, doors would slam, lights flicker on and off, the alarm would go off in the middle of the night, and sightings of the former occupants. So, knowing everything that goes on in this house and everything we talked about, would you stay overnight in it?
If you stay with me.
Oh, yeah, I would.
Okay, then. Let's see what we can arrange.
I would definitely. I wouldn't stay in it alone. I would stay in it with somebody else. Absolutely.
Oh,
And you would be the
definitely.
perfect guest. But
Definitely.
my
Okay.
Now, did I read that the McRaven home was up for sale?
Yes, it's up for sale for $1.5 million, including its furnishings.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, yeah, it also, yeah, like you said, yep. And
But
it also, go ahead.
To be honest, Leyland French had a falling out with the Chamber of Commerce, and people think he doesn't really want to sell it.
Okay.
And he's just kind of letting it sit there just to get even.
Oh, okay. Do you think you have such a beautiful piece of property, I mean, such history, that you would want to do something with the house, no? Or are they just so afraid to live in it?
Yes, exactly. Well, everyone is afraid to live in it, but he really doesn't want to sell it.
Okay.
He's just mad, and he's just holding it, and he's refusing offers. But several people have tried to live in it. After the sisters, in 1960, it has been renovated, as she said, and the people moved in and were unable to stay. And then Mr. French was unable to stay. Who knows? Maybe someone related to the original occupants would be found there.
Well, they must have seen a lot of things to not want to stay in it. Like
I'm sure.
I couldn't
I
even
saw
imagine.
rocking chairs rocking the front porch by themselves. All kinds of things happen there.
I mean, you can think it probably happened, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, just about anything happened there.
That's crazy.
If you believed in orbs, which most people don't, there's been hundreds and thousands of them caught there.
Uh-huh. Any
I
apparitions
don't know if
been caught there on film?
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely. They say the best time to catch things is at dawn or just at dusk.
Hmm.
But things appear on the film all the time there.
Did they make a movie about the McRaven home at all?
Not that I know of. It's not impossible, but I don't think so.
They should, you know. I mean, just the history alone.
Yeah,
You know, that would make for a good movie. You know, like an olden time
it's
movie.
it's a wonderful history.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a great area. I mean, it's a beautiful place. How many rooms is it?
I don't
Do you,
really know, to be honest with you.
do you know how many bedrooms at least?
Probably
I'm
at
just,
least
I'm
six
just curious.
bedrooms
Oh, that's
at the
nice.
least. Because at the time it was built, when people visited, it was quite a chore to visit your neighbors or
Okay.
your family. And they would come and they would stay no less than a month at a time.
Okay.
So they had to have a lot of bedrooms to accommodate people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just thinking in my head, going back to those times, what it would be like. I think it'd be awesome.
And
Well,
then you have
so
rows of slave quarters behind it.
okay,
And in the 1940s, those were fixed up and rented out again. And they're still in use.
huh?
Part of them, one row of them, I think there was a second row that was demolished, though. But they sold off all the property around the house because the sisters had to have money to live on. And so all they have is just the garden and the house now. All of the plantation is gone.
Okay, I understand. Well, there you have it. The beautiful McRaven home. It's located at 1445 Harrison Street, Pittsburgh, Mississippi. We are here with Larry Thomas. I am your host, Christina Cressetti, and we're going to take our first break. And when we come back, we'll be discussing New Orleans and the French Quarter. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Beyond the Grave Radio with Haunted Salem, where the dead educate the living, here on the Paranormal King Radio Network. We are back from our break, and tonight's guest, we have Larry Thomas, and we'll be discussing New Orleans and the French Quarter. So, Larry, have you ever been to New Orleans?
Have I been to New Orleans?
Yeah.
I went to New Orleans every weekend when I was in college.
That's awesome.
And most weekends after that.
That must be a sight to see, huh?
Oh, it is. It has a wonderful atmosphere. There's a magic there. You can just absorb the atmosphere.
Now, New Orleans French Quarter. This New Orleans neighborhood is a cultural melting pot of mystery, magic, and fun. It is the oldest neighborhood in the city of New Orleans. So tell us a little bit about the French Quarter.
Well, the city was built into 4 quarters. The French Quarter was the red light district of New Orleans.
Okay.
It had the rowdy bars where the sailors went, the brothels, the wild and crazy times, pretty much as it has today.
Still has all that, huh? The
brothels, everything. Well, the brothels have moved on to the streets and into the bars, but the prostitution is still rampant there.
Yeah. All right. Well, the story of Delphine Lalaurie and the heinous manner in which she tortured her slaves is probably the most wide known of the French Quarter. Madame Lalaurie is a respected socialite hosted by a grand event at her home at 1140 Royal Street. Her lavish lifestyle was made possible by a troop of slaves. Mistreatment of slaves was illegal, and society began to shun Lalaurie after a neighbor witnessed the elegant woman chasing a young servant girl with a whip. The neighbor saw the girl leap to her death from the roof in her efforts to avoid Lalaurie. The neighbor summons the authorities, and at the end of Lalaurie's social career, she was shunned. Upon her arrest, authorities removed the slaves from her home. A short time after, a fire broke out in the kitchen. In the efforts to where the fire, neighbors and firefighters stumbled upon a grisly attic torture chamber. Nude slaves, most of them dead, were discovered. Some were chained to the walls. Some were strapped to makeshift operating tables, and others were confined in cages made for animals. They had undergone various elaborate forms of torture and mutilation. When news of the findings was published in the local newspaper, an angry mob drove Lalaurie and her family from the city. Reports that the house is haunted have been rampant ever since. Many have claimed to hear screams of agony coming from the empty house. Others have seen apparitions of slaves walking about the property. There are reports of having been attacked by angry slave in chains. Now, according to the report of Kathy, a local radiologist who was often a guest at the doctor's numerous gatherings, there was always strange and unexplainable events taking place in this home. Among there were unexplained footsteps on a blocked attic stairway near the bathroom in a remote part of the upstairs interior, disembodied voices in some of the guest bedrooms, and unexplained movements in the empty attic spaces. Now, Larry, what can you add and tell us about Delphine Lalaurie?
Well, actually, I think history has done her wrong.
Okay.
But her husband was a physician. Does it make sense that she would be doing medical experiments in the attic? Or does it make more sense that he would be doing them?
Okay, so you think she was not alone? I
think that perhaps he was doing the experiments. I think she was an awfully cruel woman.
Okay.
But I think because of envy of her grand balls and elaborate lifestyle, society chose to blame her and not her husband.
Okay. Yeah, they don't really mention her husband at all, do they?
Not in this story, but he was a physician. And, I mean, there were medical experiments going on, and would the wife of a physician be doing the experiments, or would the physician do them?
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Now, do you believe everything that happened in that house is why it's haunted? With all
Definitely. I think a lot of things that went on in the house caused it to be haunted. It's one of the houses in New Orleans I have to cross to the other side of the street. I can't walk next to it because I feel the evil coming from it.
Really?
But I do think the story has become a little exaggerated with time.
Okay.
As do most things.
But it's still, I mean, the things that she did with the torture and the mutilations, they still existed, regardless if it was exaggerated a little, correct?
Right. I mean, they may have said 50 slaves and it was really 10, you know, but it really happened, yes.
Now, not like...
And they also said that she was burying the slaves under the kitchen floor. She would put up floorboards and bury them there. And a subsequent owner renovated the kitchen, and there were bones.
Oh, wow.
A lot of bones found beneath the kitchen floor.
That's wild.
So we have unmarked graves again.
I know, yeah, exactly. Now, like Elizabeth Bathory, where she was bathing in blood, you don't think that Delphine was doing kind of the same type of acts, you think?
It could happen. It could happen. Who knows? You know, anything to remain young and beautiful, maybe I should try that.
All right. Well, let's talk
But also, there's something else I wanted to add.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Her tombstone has appeared in cemetery number 1 in New Orleans with her name on it.
Yes.
Now, if she was driven out of town and never came back, how would she have been buried in the cemetery?
Ah, good point.
The story goes that it's just a tombstone, not really a grave, that one of the people who took care of the cemetery put that in so they could give tours and make more money.
So
that's the local rumor.
Know where she's buried then, huh? If that's the
case.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they could have cremated her and brought her back in and buried her at night. Because you can still go in the cemeteries at night there. Oh. In fact, I hired a couple of guys and went through one night. Put my little X on the lady on your next story here.
Yeah, Marie Laveau. Is that how you pronounce it?
Right.
Okay.
Laveau.
Laveau. Okay. She lived in New Orleans and became the queen of the Voodoos. So, Larry, now, isn't she called the Voodoo on the Bayou? Why is that?
Yes, she is the Voodoo on the Bayou because she couldn't do voodoo, which requires bonfires and things within the city. So she used to go out on the bayous and do the voodoo ceremonies.
Okay. Now, why do they put the X on her gravestone? I'm just curious.
It's they say if you put an X on the gravestone and make a wish, that she will grant you your wish, because you're making, in effect, a cross that would help her go into heaven.
Okay. All right. Well, a little bit about her. Her tomb is in St. Louis Cemetery number 1 in New Orleans. Says that she died on June 16, 1881, but there are many who will debate you on that date. And some even believe that Marie Laveau is an immortal, a vampire, and that she is still alive living in the French Quarter of New Orleans. It is interesting to note here that it is widely known that she was born a free woman and was never a slave. It is said that she was born in the French Quarter of New Orleans and she was the daughter of a white planter and a free Creole woman. Some people who make the claim that she is an immortal one, a vampire, and that she still lives in New Orleans. What's your take on that?
Well, since she was there, her daughter was there. There are 3 tombs in cemetery number 1 with her name on them.
Okay.
It could be just from mother to daughter to granddaughter, but then on the other hand, she could be immortal after all.
Yeah.
I know there are vampires in New Orleans. I have been to the covens. I have a good friend who writes vampire books, and she arranged safe passage for me to go visit the covens one night.
Okay.
And the vampires now are usually doing energy vampires. The ones who really drink blood, which when they drink blood, they only drink a drop of blood, because it would make anybody throw up if they didn't. But they're very, very underground. And it's usually they pair off, a victim and the vampire. And that's all there is.
Okay. Well, for a little haunted history surrounding Marie Laveau, at her home is where the ghost of Marie Laveau is most often seen, as are the ghosts of her black cat Henry and her big red rooster. The black cat is often seen laying on the porch, but it will vanish as soon as you approach it. The rooster is often seen pecking around in the yard of the cottage or standing on the porch of the cottage, but if you approach it, then the rooster vanishes. The rooster has even been seen on the perch of the roof of the cottage and crow. When people walk closer for a photo, there is no rooster. So, what is your take on the subject? Do you believe that our animals, our pets, go to the same afterlife? That they
I absolutely do.
That they
absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be there waiting for us when we go. And as for the roosters, if you know about voodoo, you know that often chickens or roosters were sacrificed in the voodoo rituals.
Yes.
So it kind of fits.
Isn't it more chickens than roosters? Or is it roosters, the both, maybe? I always thought they were chickens. I would never think they're roosters because you get the chicken feet.
Well, a chicken is a rooster,
Well, it'd be a male, right? It's the male version of a chicken.
A rooster is, right. It's the most beautiful one. Roosters are prettier than hens are.
Yeah, but
they would probably pick the rooster to sacrifice if they could. Because it would be a greater sacrifice.
Oh, okay. I get you. A strange black mist is often spotted above the roof of the cottage, and when it is seen, some people claim to smell a burning smell of sulfur. Usually that's a sign of demonic. There have even been claims that it is the devil himself appearing there because Marie Laveau accidentally left open a door to the other side. People also often visit the tomb in St. Louis Cemetery number 1 and mark 3 crosses on her tomb trying to get a favor from Marie Laveau. Once a favor is granted, they often leave gifts of flowers and fruit at her tomb. Marie Laveau's ghost is quite often spotted in the front of her tomb. Other people claim to see a large, oversized crow setting on top of her tomb. The crow is most often seen near sunset and sunup. So now
they also sacrifice bottles of rum to her off there too.
Okay. Like pour it out or just the whole bottle?
They pour it out. They take one drink themselves and then pour out the rest of the bottle for her.
Oh. That's also what do you call it? A gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, with the smell of sulfur in the home and the mark of 3 crosses on her tomb, do you think that she's associated herself with the devil?
I think she certainly tried.
Okay.
I don't know if she was successful or if she just wanted people to think that. Now, you know, her great-granddaughter worked for me as my family's a babysitter.
That's wild.
And she did tarot readings in my kitchen. And I watched her and I learned to read tarot cards.
That's
and I really, what I learned was to open, not just to read the tarot cards.
Mm-hmm.
And she had chickens in her backyard too. And she was known to make little love potions and things for the people in the town. Or if a woman didn't want to have a baby, she would give her something to drink and the woman wouldn't have the baby.
Oh, wow.
But how much of that was chance? Yeah. I mean, a woman thought she was pregnant, but wasn't sure. And came to her, and if she got the potion and it worked, then a miracle happened. If not, then she did something wrong, you know.
I see what you're saying.
Or to attract a man, if she told the woman that if she drank this potion or put this in his pocket, that he would fall in love with her. But she had to stare at him and be confident and sure of herself. In other words, it made the woman more attractive.
Okay.
And of course, she showed the man she was interested, and a lot of men respond to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So who knows if it worked or not, if it was suggestion.
Yeah, because back then they wouldn't know. They can only assume, correct?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Well, teach us a little and tell us some other famous places or famous ghosts of the French Quarter.
Okay, I have one story for you.
Okay.
And it's called The Haunted Harem.
Okay.
Or the Sultan's Palace. You know, to the casual passerby, the house on Defense Street offers no outward clue to the debauchery and carnage that took place within its walls more than a century ago, leaving the dark mystery of unsolved massacre and slaughtered spirits that can find no rest. It's an ordinary-looking house, as far as French houses go. Lovely wrought iron lace on the balconies, flowers in a small courtyard, similar to the other elegant homes in the heart of the quarter. It's on a quiet street, only 2 blocks from the nightly madness of Bourbon Street. From 1839 to 1873, the house was owned by a wealthy plantation owner, Jean-Baptiste Leprete, who owned the house for entertaining and socializing during the fall and winter. The rest of the year, he and his family occupied their large plantation home. Sometimes during the later years around the war, after the war, he was approached by a wealthy young man from Turkey who was looking for a house to rent. He was renting the house, or so he said, for his older brother, a wealthy Turkish sultan who would be joining him later. The young man needed a large house to accommodate a large party of men and women traveling with him. The owner rented the house to the Turk, who moved in with his entourage of beautiful young men and muscular men. Almost as soon as the lax box and trunk was carried into the house, the character of the house underwent a dramatic change. Heavy draperies were put on all the windows, allowing no light to enter in or out the windows. Doors were always closed and locked. A padlock appeared on the front gate. Armed guards with scimitars stood around the clock. When the front door did open to let someone in, the sweet smell of incense wafted through the neighborhood, and strange tinkling music could be heard. Stories of mysterious beguines began to circulate in the neighborhoods. It was rumored that the young woman traveling with the group were actually members of the Sultan's harem, stolen away to America by the Young Turk. Orgies complete with opium and sexual perversions of all sorts began. All members of the house were said to participate, and they were commonplace. Rumors also had it that the Young Turk hoarded boxes full of treasure, which he had stolen from his brother, the Sultan. Now, haunted, if the story ended there, it would be a strange tale, even for New Orleans.
Sure.
But what happened next went down in New Orleans history as one of the bloodiest and most horrible crimes ever committed in the city.
Okay.
Now, early one morning, a neighbor was walking by the house and noticed the gate was unlocked. He was horrified at what he saw next.
Okay.
A stream of blood oozing over the front door, down the steps, and under the gate. The police were quickly summoned, and they prepared to enter the house. At the front door, which was also locked and slowly swung open, the officers were faced with a scene of carnage such as they had never seen before. The smell of death and blood was so strong that several policemen could no further go on. The abundantly decorated house now resembled a butcher shop. Body parts and organs were strewn up and down the grand staircase. The gorgeous wood floors were so slick with blood that it was hard to walk without falling. Although none of the neighbors seemed to have heard anything, every person in the house had been chopped to pieces during the night. The mutilation was so complete that it was impossible to tell what parts went with what bodies.
Wow.
Heads, arms, legs, and other pieces of the occupants were so hacked and scattered that the victims were never identified. All but one, that is.
Okay.
Just when the officers thought they had seen the worst, they ventured into the courtyard. Here, the horror intensified. Looking around the garden, one of the officers spied what looked like glove. On closer inspection, however, he realized it was a human hand reaching from what appeared to be a freshly dug grave. As the officers unearthed the body, they discovered it was the young Turk, the brother of the Sultan. He had been badly injured and then buried alive.
Oh, wow.
From the appearance of the body, it appeared, let's see, from the appearance of the body, the young man had a hellish last few minutes. I was trying to put a picture up.
What's the name of this place?
One hand,
Paranormal Poison wanted was asking what was the name again of this place you're describing?
I call it the haunted harem, but it's the Sultan's Palace.
Oh, okay.
It's what it's usually referred by.
Okay.
Now, he had a hellish last few minutes of life as he choked and grasped on the clay and soil of New Orleans. One hand was clawing desperately from the smoldering earth of the grave, for he had breathed his last. To this day, no one knows exactly who committed the heinous crimes. Did the young Turk steal the woman and treasure from his wealthy brother, who then sought retribution? Or had pirates learned about his treasure and stolen into the city in the middle of the night to commit the massacre? Now, stories persist of a pirate ship that docked for less than a day and left as quickly as it came.
Oh, wow.
But no one came forward to claim the pieces of the bodies.
Oh, really?
And no one came in search of any of the occupants of the house.
Huh,
now, the truth will likely never be known. But ever since that night, people have claimed to hear the tinkling of the music late at night in the house. Others have detected the scent of incense coming from the house. Residents of the house have claimed to see a light-haired man late at night who disappeared as if by magic. Others claim to see a similar person sitting in one of the windows in the wee hours of the morning. Now, if this is the young Turk who will not rest until someone knows what happened, or does he still search for his treasure? The ghost of the Sultan's Palace is the only one who can answer this so far, and he has not spoken. And that is the Sultan's Palace.
Yep, Sultan's Palace. That's awesome. That's awesome. I actually have never heard of that, so I'm glad you brought that up.
I thought I would bring one more little haunted house and from the French Quarter for you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much.
If in another show you would like to do more, I'd be glad to research for you.
Oh, I would love to, actually, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you come back, and whatever you want to, discuss as far as topic would be great. You're a wonderful guest.
Just let me know anytime you would like. I am at your beck and command. I'm your beck and command, boy.
Thank you, Larry. All right, so this is the end of our show. Larry, thank you so much for coming on and blessing us with your presence. What a fantastic show, and you're such a wonderful, knowledgeable person. You are listening to Beyond the Grave Radio with Haunted Salem, and our special guest for the night, Larry Thomas. I'm your host, Christina Corsetti. I would like to thank Ross Raposo and the Paranormal King Radio Network for having us on, all you listeners and everyone in chat. Next week, stay tuned for we're having Carissa Fleck with the Horsefly Chronicles, and we'll be talking about true life demonic hauntings. Please subscribe to the Haunted Salem YouTube channel for prior shows and visit us on mysteriesofhauntedsalem.com. So take care and have a great night.
night, everyone.
That ends this episode of Beyond the Grave Radio with Haunted Salem, where the dead educate the living. Thank you for listening to what the dead had to say. All the stories mentioned are true, and if interested in more, visit us at mysteriesofhauntedsalem.com.